me, it's good.
Yeah, well, like I said, yeah, to me, I don't, you know, Christmas.
What do? You go to church?
Christmas can give, no, I don't forget for nothing. I'm Mr. Scrooge.
I watch it every year, the day before Christmas, just to get myself.
David, you watch it, that is Frank.
All right, Frank, good to see you.
It was very entertaining. I would just learn about fascinating with the subjects are too. My kids are they did really well. They could time for like to see what's possible. Like yes, they did good.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to the Kalamazoo City Commission to order for Tuesday, January 2nd, 2018. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Cooney.
Present.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Here.
Commissioner Sykes. Commissioner Urban.
Here.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Here.
Mayor Hopewell.
Present. May we have a motion to excuse Commissioner Sykes?
So move.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Cooney, supported by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. For our opening ceremony this evening, we will have an invocation by Chaplain Mike Kimple of Lighthouse on 11th. I ask that you stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank
Good
you,
evening,
Mr.
Chaplain.
Mayor. Good evening. Thank you again, Commission, for inviting me to be here. Thank you for the privilege to be able to do this prayer to begin in a diverse culture. I just appreciate the opportunity to do this. So, Father God, we come before you, we lift you up. We ask for blessing and wisdom and peace upon this commission. Thank you for the women and the men of this city who lead and guide. Thank you for those in public safety who care as well. And Lord, I pray that this would be a prosperous year in 2018. Thank you for the ways that you care for us. You have placed people in leadership, and we praise you for that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Glad you're all here. We have one proclamation this evening. I will head to the podium. I believe Commissioner Cunningham will handle this.
Is it Carrie Pickett? Miss Carrie Pickett Erway, would you please come up to the podium with our Honorable Mayor Bobby J. Hopewell? Just to say a few words, I think this is an amazing proclamation, one that is amazing to start off at the beginning of the year. And so let's get into reading of this proclamation. A National Day of Racial Healing, January 16th, 2018. Whereas, we have all witnessed racial divisiveness rising in Americans' urban, rural, suburban, and tribal communities today that threatens the very core of this great country's unified front. And whereas, just like those who came before us, it is our duty to protect the children of this country and maintain communities in which they may all be given the opportunity to succeed. And whereas we understand and recognize that there is a racial divide in our country, and we must all work earnestly to heal the wounds created by racial, ethnic, and religious bias and build an equitable and just society so that all children can thrive. And whereas children have the right to be provided every opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive in nurturing environments that don't violate their safety, dignity, and humanity. And whereas every single person has the capability to make the simple change within him or herself that can have a profound effect on an entire society. And whereas, if we all dedicate ourselves to the principles of truth, racial healing, and transformation, we can all bring about the necessary changes in thinking and behavior that will propel this great country forward as a unified force where racial bias will become a thing of the past. And whereas racial healing is a vital and crucial commitment to the education, social, mental, and overall well-being of our children. Now, therefore, on behalf of the 52nd Commission and our Honorable Mayor Bobby J. Hopewell of the City of Kalamazoo, do hereby declare January 16th, 2018 as the National Day of Racial Healing, and urges all citizens to promote racial healing and transformation in the ways that are best suited for them individually as a means to working together to ensure the best quality of life for every child. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Just a a statement of gratitude. Thank you so much for the proclamation, and we're very proud in Kalamazoo to join communities across the country in declaring January 16th a National Day of Healing. We do believe that Kalamazoo can be a community where every child, every person has the opportunity to reach their full potential, and eradicating racism is part of that. So thank you so much.
We are now at item C, adoption of the formal agenda. Commissioners, are there any changes? Commissioners, I have one. Shortly before this meeting, in regards to item E1, I was informed we have a protest petition that was turned in, and staff has not had the opportunity to really go through it to determine the validity of the signatures and all the functions that come with a petition, which in this case, if you have a protest petition and it does meet the requirements, then this item would have to pass by a two-thirds vote of the commission. So in light of that, I'm removing E1 off the agenda this evening, and we'll place it on the agenda on the 16th. If there's anyone in the audience wanting to comment on items under F, the consent agenda, that item will need to be moved to the regular agenda. If you have such an item, please indicate at this time. Hearing none, Communications Manager Ritzman.
Yeah, one item this evening, reminder that we have a work session next Monday, the 8th, here in the City Commission chambers for the purpose of identifying interviewees of the at-large city position, yes. And we ask that the city commissioners come with 6 identified candidates, and then we'll begin the process of vetting that and narrowing it down. And so we ask that you come with 6, and if you want to prioritize, great. If not, you may be expected to do that at the meeting. So,
thank you. Item F, the consent agenda, please.
We have 4 items this evening. First is a reading of an ordinance to amend certain sections of Chapter 38 and Chapter 28 of the Kalamazoo Code to change the rates charged for water and wastewater services effective January 29, 2018. Next is the adoption of a resolution adopting and approving the First Amendment to the revised Brownfield Plan implemented by the City of Kalamazoo Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Next is the adoption of a resolution supporting Michigan Senate Bill 469 and House Bills 5117 and 5178 to restore the state historic tax credits. And finally, the approval of the sale of 200 square feet of parcel number 06-33-358-001 for $1 to Mr. Hussein Akli, MD, authorization for the extension of the Lakeside Drive public right-of-way by 100 feet and authorization for the parcel split of 1415 White Oak Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve items 1 through 3 and hold item 4 until January 16, 2018, and authorize the city manager to sign all documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Cunningham, or Commissioner Urban.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Cunningham. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. The regular agenda, Mr. Manager.
Adoption of a resolution approving and adopting the annual appropriation for the year 2018, setting forth the number of mills to be levied, approving an interim appropriation for the year 2019, and establishing policies for the administration of the budget. The following 6 items are also being considered as part of this resolution. First is the adoption of the proposed fiscal year 2018 budget for the Downtown Development Authority, operating budget, and approval of the existing 2 mil DDA tax levy. Next is the approval of the proposed fiscal year 2018 Brownfield Redevelopment Authority budget as submitted by the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board. Next is the adoption of the proposed fiscal year 2018 Economic Development Corporation budget as submitted by the EDC Board. And next is the adoption of a resolution approving 2018 fees for various permits, hearings, etc. within the City or Community Planning Development Department. Next is the adoption of a resolution to establish the Department of Parks and Recreation fees and charges for 2018. And finally, the approval of the proposed 2018 Kalamazoo Municipal Golf Association membership fees and daily golf rates. Your Honor, I would like Deputy City Manager Patsy Moore to come forward and just give a brief outline of what is before you this evening and encapsulate what we plan to do with this next year's budget.
Manager Moore, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Hopewell, Vice Mayor Knott, and City Commissioners. It is our pleasure once again to present to you a balanced 5-year fiscal plan. First of all, we want to acknowledge the hard work of our budget team, specifically Management Services Director CFO Scribola and Stephanie McGowan. The rest of our budget team, budget preparers throughout the organization, department directors, all working under the direction of our city manager. Thank them for a fantastic job, and we certainly would be remiss if we did not thank all of you for your input and guidance throughout this process. So tonight, since the publication of the budget on December 1st, you've held a public work session and a public hearing to receive comments regarding this budget. The budget has been available on our website and in various city offices. Tonight, we are presenting for your final consideration the proposed 2018 citywide budget in the amount of $176.8 million, including $12.4 million of Foundation for Excellence projects and initiatives. This proposed citywide budget supports 628 full-time and 10 part-time positions, representing a proposed increase of 28 full-time positions. 20 of those 28 positions reside in the Public Safety Department and in Public Services and are funded partially by grants in the Public Safety Department and by utility rates in the Public Services Department. The general fund is proposed at $60.4 million with a projected fund balance of 16.7%. With this budget, we are also pleased to propose a change in our general fund policy. Currently, the policy includes a floor of 13% and a ceiling of 15%. With this budget, we are recommending that the general fund target fund balance is no less than 15% of revenue. Millage rates remain unchanged for the general operating at the new low of 12 mills and 1.8 mills for the solid waste operating budget. As it relates to other fees, you approved the utility rates this evening. You have in this budget packet fee resolutions from Community Planning and Development, Parks and Recreation, and the Kalamazoo Municipal Golf Association. You also have included the Brownfield Redevelopment budget and the Economic Development Corporation budget. Finally, you have before you the Downtown Development Authority's budget. Director Andrew Hahn is here to present highlights from that budget, but before he comes forward, I am happy to answer any questions you might have up to this point.
Commissioner? Commissioner Anderson?
I just do want to make a quick comment. I don't have a particular question for you tonight. Sometimes when we get to this point, excuse me, in the budget process, it seems like it's perfunctory and no one's asking questions, but I do want to remind folks that we have gone extensively through this budget process now for the last month and a half. A lot of opportunities for questions, public presentation, that sort of thing. So that work has been being done, leads us to this point tonight, and I just really, really appreciate all the hard work that occurred before the budget got in our hands, which was on December 1st, by charter, by all the staff and everyone here who works at the city, and city residents who basically created a situation where information was collected by city staff, which culminated in our vision of how to spend the money, which is what came to us on December 1st. So this has been in the process for many months, and I really appreciate all the work that's gone into it to create what seems like an easy vote tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to remind commissioners this is the point of questions, so please, we'll have the opportunity for comments after. Commissioner Urban? Microphone.
I wonder if you could repeat the sentence that had to do with the fund balance range that was enforced before, and I recall what it's going to be from here on. But if you could just repeat that sentence,
Sure.
And then if you could explain why this change was made.
The current policy states that we would go no lower than 13%. So we created a floor of 13%, and we created the ceiling of 15%. During the lean years, it was 15% originally, but because of the lack of funds, we reduced it to that range so that we would hit within that range. And now that we are balanced, the 5-year fiscal plan is balanced, we feel that it is prudent again to go to the minimum of 15% of revenues.
Good, thank you.
Deputy Manager, could you explain just so in simple layman's terms,
sure,
what we mean by fund balance, and so that individuals understand that are listening that it's really how we're trying to keep dollars available in the city and saving dollars, that sort of thing. If you do that, please.
Absolutely. As we prepare our budgets, when we talk about fund balance, we talk about what's, we look at our revenues, we look at our expenditures for the year, and we target an amount that we want to maintain. And following good accounting principles, there is a recommendation to maintain that balance in your fund balance. That balance is there for cash flow purposes, it's there for emergencies, but it shows good fiscal accountability. We feel that 15% is the standard, and we are happy to be able to get back to that level.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Yeah, Andrew Hahn wants to make a brief presentation on the Downtown Development Authority budget.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, thank you so much for your time tonight. I have a brief presentation that I'm going to give that's going to kind of outline some of the key work that we're going to be doing next year in partnership with the city. So I'm going to start with the unpleasant slide that we have here. And I trust that you all have this in front of you, so it's kind of hard to read. So for the audience, tax increment financing is the primary way in which we have funded our downtown development activities for the last 28 years. And that is a means of capturing the new growth within the downtown to fund new infrastructure projects, programming, any number of programs and projects and operations for downtown. Over the years that this graph actually starts in the year 2000. It does not show that growth from the zero of 1989 up to 2000, but by the year 2000 we were collecting over $2 million a year to invest back into the district to stimulate further investment and growth. By 2008 that had risen all the way to over $3.5 million a year. And that really allowed us to do some impactful work in the district in keeping our infrastructure in good shape, incentivizing projects, and a number of other activities. Much like the city and other municipalities across the state, we took it on the chin in the recession, and due to things like the Headley Amendment, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, our growth to get back has not been able to come back as quickly as the property values have. Likewise, there have been some major demolitions within the district that have impacted the TIF, and also some properties that were deemed to have been overassessed, and those assessments were lowered. So this year we had a major tax appeal in late summer, which actually wiped out the increment. So the total value of the district going into next year will actually be below what it was in 1989, which is kind of counterintuitive. But as I said, there's a number of factors that were not anticipated. That being said, the way that this was set up 28 years ago was very impactful, and here we're going to start getting into the more positive things. But as of this first year here, there is no increment to collect and build from. So the top priority for downtown for next year is to build sustainable, resilient revenue streams. That is going to be a public-private, philanthropic, and internal effort at DKI to do that. On the public side, we're working very closely with the city administration and economic development team, and also the Michigan Economic Development Corporation to look at what TIF tools are out there and what would be the best fit to continue to do the work downtown. So we're looking at potentially a retooled Downtown Development Authority TIF. There's also a tool through the Brownfield legislation that would be a Brownfield District TIF, and a Corridor Improvement Authority District TIF called the Qualified Development Area. So we're working over the next quarter to sort out which of these would be the best approach to take for downtown moving forward. And we'll be working very closely with, of course, with the DDA board and with everyone up here in front of us tonight to look towards next year and how we stabilize this and start regrowing so we can be impactful again. On the private side, in the Imagine Kalamazoo plan, it is called out to explore the possibility of doing a business improvement district, which is something that has been successfully employed in Detroit, Grand Rapids, and other cities, and is basically a special assessment district to provide some of those kind of those added cherry on top services, the safe and clean initiatives downtown. So again, the goal would be to have the new TIF really focus on infrastructure and the hard costs outside of the doors of businesses downtown, and then look to them to see what those added services are that they would like. On the philanthropic side, I'm just kind of turning over into the Downtown Kalamazoo Incorporated side. In the past, the TIF had been such a reliable source of income that there was not, operational grants were not pursued. We do have a commitment for a significant operational grant this year that would be a multi-year grant. So we're really looking to diversify how we fund this work in the community. And we also have a commitment, a 5-year commitment for free office space, which is really helping us kind of both lower costs and also look at new revenue sources. And then internally, we're looking to do more revenue positive events where we've really kind of just operated from an underwriting model where our sponsorships cover the underwriting, the cost, but we want to see if there's opportunities for us to bring new revenues in through our events. One of the big priorities will be a focus on retail growth and attraction. I think you all have heard me talk a couple times about the market analysis that we completed this year that showed there was $50 million in retail spending to be captured into downtown. So we're going to work both sides of this coin to bring new retail into downtown and also help the retailers that are already here perform better. So we're kicking off in February a quarterly professional development series that will focus on, the first session will be visual merchandising and storefront design. We'll be having a session on e-commerce, one on financial management, and one on customer service. In the months in between, we're going to be doing business breakfast roundtables with gathering all of our downtown businesses together to help kind of share best practices and other industry things that are happening to help drive their business forward. And we'll also be adding dedicated business retention and attraction staff in the third quarter. One that we here spend a lot of our time working on, and I'm sure you all hear about from time to time, is the challenges and opportunities associated with parking downtown. We have a system that was set up in 1989 that has done an excellent job in maintaining the facilities we've had and really keeping a stable, steady path. But we've had some major changes in the last couple of years with the sale of a major asset in the former Ramp 4, and there are other developments that may happen on some of our surface lots downtown, which are incredible opportunities for growth and building density, but we need to make sure that we adapt to those from our operational model. We also are going to be looking at a refocused approach and goals for what we want to do with the system. So looking more towards how we use that to the parking that we have and the assets within the system to grow the economy, serve our customers, serve the residents of the city, as opposed to just looking at the bottom line of the system. So we'll have, as I said, we'll have to adapt to that changing asset portfolio, look at upgrades and repairs to the system, optimizing our management structure. The contractor that we've had for 20+ years doing that on our behalf has done a great job with what we've asked them to do, but we want to make sure that we're asking them to do the right things and are operating very progressively in our parking policies. So transportation demand management is one of those things where it's not just how many cars can we bring downtown, it's how do we look at other modes of transportation, carpooling and being pedestrian friendly, bike friendly, transit friendly, et cetera. New revenue streams, including potentially sponsorships, advertising, some things we've never really considered before. And then a priority on turnover and convenience. The philosophy has kind of been that, you know, free parking is the most important thing, and we know that is important, having that somewhere within the system, but having parking that's available and convenient is really the most important. And then some new customer service, customer-focused programs as well. We want to make sure that experience is pleasant, easily understandable. So one of the other things that on the mobility side is working to coordinate with the city administration, MDOT, and other downtown stakeholders on the work that we're so excited about that is forthcoming in our downtown street network and some of the changes we're going to be able to make. So that is, of course, a nuanced and long-term project, but we're very excited and we're eager to help represent the interests of various downtown stakeholders in that process. Our brand and engagement is another critical piece. We have a brand that was done in 1999 for our downtown and has served us well, but there is time for a change. That would be not just for downtown, for the organization that serves it. That would include new wayfinding, signs, logos, taglines, and a big marketing push around that as well. And then as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a new engagement and education space that will be in a storefront on the first floor and really allow people to get involved in the work of building a healthy and successful downtown. One of the other things I talked about at the work session is the fact that we have not done major capital improvement programs downtown in some time. So we have deferred maintenance on our sidewalks, our streetscape, and wayfinding are looking very dated. Public spaces, you know, that was a priority in Imagine Kalamazoo, was to really activate those spaces and make them places that are welcoming for the community. Public art, we know, is something that was demanded, and then expanded maintenance too. We do a really good job of keeping the mall looking nice, but I think it's important that Michigan Avenue and Lovell and South and Rose and all those other streets get that same level of attention and management. And then that last piece you also heard me talk about is better leveraging the Arcadia Creek Festival Place. So this has been very impactful on downtown since its creation in 2003. We've seen several festivals leave and kind of a lull a little bit in that in the last several years. So we're starting this quarter a market analysis to understand what the market is for that space. Is it still for a 7,000 seat venue? Is it for a smaller venue? Et cetera. And then assuming that we would still have some sort of venue similar to that there, working through a design and functionality assessment with community stakeholders through focus groups, open houses, online surveys, walking the site, and we would then move into the design and infrastructure management part of it, and then look at the operations too. My organization, prior to me arriving, had always functioned from a reactive mode when it came to the festival place. We waited for the phone to ring, and when it did, we booked it. And that worked for a long time, but we know that we need to be out there actually courting people to come and use this incredible space we have in our downtown. And then also looking at sponsorship opportunities for that site. We think that's something that has gone untapped right now. And I think that's the end. So happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Commissioner Cunningham?
So with the rebranding, have you engaged some of our neighboring communities or neighborhood associations or do you expect to engage those populations moving forward for our downtown?
Absolutely. So this is on the plan. We've not started doing this work yet. It's something that I identified before when I was considering the position that we really needed to look at shooting some new life into the brand, both of downtown and of the organization. So I would see that being in close concert with the efforts that are just kind of getting talked about for the city doing some rebranding as well. We would want to work in parallel with that and be mindful that we're not duplicating efforts or resources. But of course, how we engage with the neighborhoods and some sort of unified look would be very important to that.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes. Are you? Is your group looking at what other cities are doing with respect to modernizing their parking, on-street parking facilities? Because I just came from a city that has these credit cards you push in, and that's for a whole block of well, maybe 10 or 20 cars in that area.
Like the centralized?
Yeah, there's a zone for that. And I felt like, well, now I'm in a really modern place. This is very efficient. You just go to one place and you can put in your full time and you don't have to fish for change. But somebody had stuck something into the slot. And so all of us in that whole area were getting free parking. And of course, I loved it until I realized I'm a city commissioner. And that means that somebody's losing revenue on account of that. So I'm just thinking about this. I was in Washington, D.C. is where it happened. We got to be sure that we have enough in our budgets to keep those things in good repair.
Yep.
And to have a ability to reprogram them and to also to explain them to people.
So can we strike the jamming the slot thing from the record so nobody thinks about that?
Well, I knew there was a risk in even mentioning it.
No, it's okay. So we are looking to other cities. As part of our process, we intend on doing site visits to a number of places within the region, both in Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, looking at best practices. There's a bit of a debate right now between whether the central kiosks or having the, individual space meters that can take credit cards are better. Our retail analysts suggest that convenience, again, is the most important thing. So if you got to walk 50 feet, that's an added inconvenience. So we're going to weigh, what the best way to do this is, both from a cost and convenience standpoint. But looking at best practices in other communities will absolutely be part of it. So.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks so much.
Mr. Manager.
That concludes our presentations, Your Honor.
Any questions for the manager? Anyone in the audience wanting to speak on this item, please step to the podium. You have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. Just a reminder, this is the budget item that you'd be speaking.
If I may, Mike Fleckenstein, 5117 Willowbend Trail, Kalamazoo.
Good evening.
I listened with a great deal of interest to the DDA presentation, and I hear some very good things, and I hear some things that I think might result in some conflict, but one of the things that I'd be willing to take a vote here today that 90% of us have dogs. I personally want to live in the downtown, and I intend to in the next year. I have a dog, and I'm going to take him for a walk. There's a lot of people who don't care and pick up after their pets, and I think one of the valuable things that this city can do, the DDA perhaps, is to establish in the near perimeter of the downtown where there are curb lawns and such that need to be taken care of, dog stations. I've seen this employed in other communities very successfully. And so I'm just putting it out there that maybe perhaps this is something that could be considered, seeing as how we're looking at ways to improve the streetscape. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to address the commission on the budget? Seeing no one. Commissioners, the requested action is motion to adopt the annual appropriations resolution and approve the component unit budgets and fee schedules. Is there a motion? Moved by Vice Mayor Knott.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Anderson. We are in discussion. Hearing none, Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. We have a budget. Mr. Manager, do you have a report this evening?
I do, Your Honor. First, I just want to take some time and thank Andrew Hahn. He really walked into a tough position, given what he presented here this evening, and has just done a great job dealing with the problems and getting ahead of it. And I just want to acknowledge that work and the partnership we have with you and the DDA and DKI. And I think we got all the elements in place to make this all happen. So just wanted to give him a shout out. And then secondly, I came across a quote recently, and I think it applies well with the budget. And the quote goes, "Today's good is the foundation for tomorrow's better." So I would look at the budget of 2018 as good, recognizing that it lays the foundation for tomorrow's better. And so we have a lot of work to do, but it's certainly going to be a thrill the next few years, well, actually several more years than that, of what we got planned to do for Kalamazoo and making this a community of excellence and greatness. So, and then finally, I would like to ask Director Baker, Public Safety or Public Services Director Baker, to come forward just to provide some updates on snow removal, sidewalk snow removal, and our recently issued water running notice that was issued last week. Director Baker?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Your Honor, City Manager, Commissioners. We've had tremendously cold temperatures here and some ongoing snow events that really kind of hit us on December 24th and have stayed with us all throughout both holidays and continue to this day. We've had, with extremely cold temperatures, we've had some equipment malfunctions and some challenges out there with the snow removal, everything else. Regardless, with that, the crews remain in good spirits. Despite the challenges, we are deploying new equipment. We have a new wing blade plow, 2 new wing blade plows that the crews are out there clearing with. We also have 3 new CDL drivers that came to the city without CDLs that have obtained their CDLs, and they're now training on the job training for snow removal. The biggest challenge for us currently really is the temperatures. The road salt that we use is really active at temperatures above 20 degrees Fahrenheit. If there's a lot of sun out, then the salt will work down to maybe 15, sometimes as low as 10 degrees. So we have a product that we mix with that to help accelerate and go down to further temperatures. However, the pump system that distributes that chemical busted on us over the weekend. So we're making a lot of dedicated efforts. The crews are working extremely hard. The men and women of public services are really dedicated to it. We have about 26 to 30 personnel that spent their holidays here on the streets of Kalamazoo clearing those streets. They're dedicated to it. They're going to continue that good work. Additionally, this fall and late summer, we put a dedicated effort towards sidewalk snow removal for City Kalamazoo properties, and also properties where for contractual obligations or right-of-way acquiring, we took over responsibilities of sidewalks. Those areas include Stadium Drive from Drake to Rambling Road, West Michigan from Drake to Howard, Gull Road along Riverside Cemetery, West Main along Mount Home Cemetery, and then the newly constructed roundabout. Our crews have been out with various forms of equipment, maintaining those sidewalks at the same priority that we maintain major streets. So we've been out over the weekends, over these holidays, clearing those sidewalks to enhance walkability and ensure that we're taking care of our walking folks as much as we are with our motoring public. I also want to talk about just sidewalks and snow removal in general. If a citizen has a complaint about it, if they don't feel that we've been to their street yet, or you see a sidewalk that needs to be cleared, if you go on the city's website, click on Public Services and click on Snow Removal, there's an online form you can fill out if you choose to do that, or there's a number provided. The number is 337-8215, and you can call us and give us any input as far as, hey, you forgot our street, the sidewalk needs attention. We do have an ordinance in place which requires the adjacent property owner to maintain the sidewalk in terms of snow and ice removal. And, you know, we want to make sure we're setting the example as public services that we're clearing our responsible areas first. So you're going to see us, you know, be dedicated to that this winter. And, you know, for those folks that aren't maintaining their sidewalk, usually we try to meet with the home and property owners and educate them on what the rules are in terms of that and see if there's assistance they need or if we can connect them with somebody that can help them out. Transitioning to talk about water now, we track cumulative freezing degree days. That's a calculation that takes into account the high and low temperature and what that's doing to frost in the ground. We're seeing that we're at a point we reached last Friday where the summation of temperatures and time gets us to a point where we're starting to freeze services. We then issued a media release advising residents to run their water about a pencil thick diameter continuously to prevent your pipes from freezing. That's, you know, critical that customers take advantage of that and run that water. That will prevent them from freezing up. We've had several frozen water calls over the weekend. We responded to 4 on Saturday, and those were frozen water services on the homeowner side. That means that's after the meter pipes inside the house. So we performed emergency offs for those folks there. So another thing that we've done just recently, we sent out over 30 door hangers to all customers that we have a record in our system of previous water frozen events, whether they had plumbing failures inside their home or they were a frozen service. So we actually put a door hanger on their residents and advise them that our records indicate that you've had a frozen service at your property before. We advise you at this time to please run that water a pencil thick diameter.
Questions for the director? Commissioner Urban?
Any way of gauging the degree of compliance to those door hangers, or you just wait to see if there's a fewer in a given period of time than there were when you had when we had cold weather of similar duration earlier?
Yeah, you know, certainly, well, we're taking these efforts to be proactive. It's a major inconvenience for a customer to not have water. If your water is frozen or your pipes break, I mean, we could only imagine how devastating that can be. Our crews were busy with, as we talked about, the streets maintenance, water main breaks, and everything else we're responsible for. In fact, just before the commission meeting, we closed Woodward from Kalamazoo to West Main due to a sewer infrastructure failure. So we might not be able to get to your home to deal with your frozen water right away. It might be 2 weeks or more for us to do that. So to go 2 weeks without water, it's a major inconvenience, and we're doing everything that we can to try to prevent that. So we ask, you know, certainly customers that have a known occurrence of that happening, please run your water That might be a minor inconvenience to make sure your tap's always running, but that pales in comparison to going without or having and sustaining property damage due to frozen pipe.
Another question. If the pipes that are frozen are upstream of the meter, and like before it's at the final branch, do you notify other homeowners that are using the same branch?
So every home has its own meter and service. So what you'd be talking about would be like a main break?
Yeah, well, yeah, or a sub-main, something between the individual thing and a major main.
Yeah.
Because that's where the flow could also be very low. For example, if people on that street are all heading south for the winter, that's going to be very low usage, and there's nobody around to turn the water on.
Yeah, so we only have transmission mains, and services. We don't have sub-services.
Okay.
But understanding that point, there are some areas where we'll actually run a hydrant to the storm sewer system, or we call, pump to waste or hydrant to waste to get water flowing through some of those larger pipes, maybe 4 or 6 inch pipe that we're not seeing a lot of usage on to prevent like a main or multiple residents from freezing. So, taking that into consideration, we are actively doing that in certain locations where we have history.
Okay, good, thank you.
Other questions, commissioners? I just want to say I think it's impressive the proactive nature of this door hanger effort. I think I needed a reminder since my pipes froze last night, second time this season, only because I forgot to leave the water running. But I appreciate the proactive nature of that. And by the way, no one came from the city to take care of mine. I took care of it myself before someone walks up and says that the mayor got some kind of preferential treatment. I don't think you knew anything about mine freezing until this moment.
No, Your Honor, not until you just said that.
And it's running fine now. So anyway, thank you for that work.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
That concludes my report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney, you have a report this evening? No, Your Honor. Mr. Clerk, you have a report?
No, sir.
We are now at citizens' comment. Any citizen wanting to comment about anything this evening, step to the podium. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city, and if you'd sign in before or after your comments, we would appreciate it. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm Richard Stewart, and I am one of the signers of the protest tonight on the downgrade zoning of 243 properties. I, as well as most of the existing property owners in Southtown, have CC zoning presently. CC is the most desirable commercial zoning to have in the city of Kalamazoo. You are going to be voting now, apparently on January 16th, to downgrade that to CN2. With CC, a building can be built or rebuilt up to 4 stories tall without any special permit. Under CN2, a building can only be up to 35 feet high, which is basically 2 feet or 2 stories or less. This limits any development by at least 50% of what is currently allowed. By limiting space inside a building, you effectively reduce the site value. Southtown was so desirable with its current zoning that KVCC chose us to be their neighbor. Homes in Southtown are now selling for $90,000, $95,000 or more, just to be torn down by Bronson Hospital or Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing. The owners of these properties have enjoyed significant appreciation on their investments because of these desirable CC zonings. CN2 is so undesirable that currently there are 0 properties that have this restrictive zoning in Kalamazoo. There are 0 comp sales, nothing in CN2 currently. We, the people of Southtown, do not want to be the first in Kalamazoo to be a test of your social experiment. The devil is hidden in the details, and in this case, the only winners are those who will enjoy increases in zoning to high-density multifamily and commercial central business district. In this measure, the city is rezoning 3 full city blocks of city-owned property to the highest price zoning of CBDG, while reducing the rest of us to CN2. The only other winner is Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing, who is having properties they bought only last year rezoned to RM36, high-density multi-units, to build a multi-unit building on Burr Oak Street. KNHS has already began tearing down houses on Fellows. The neighborhood has not even seen plans of this multi-unit development that is included in your vote, apparently on January 16th. We are concerned of traffic, noise, and crime that such a building will bring, along with new flooding issues, just like KVCC brought on us. The main issue is the loss of value by existing property owners by the height restriction. The property owners asked city staff numerous meetings to remove height restrictions, allow existing auto-related businesses to remain, regardless of storms, regardless of fires, and a drug and alcohol-free zone. As the measure sits on January 16th, the 3 auto-related businesses that are conforming today in Southtown will become non-conforming use. They can continue to operate unless they have a fire or suffer storm damage, at which time they cannot be rebuilt without special approval and costs. These 3 auto-related businesses are all minority-owned, and if that is what gentrification is, well, and if that isn't what gentrification is, I don't know what is. The city wants to take away our desirable CC zoning and give us nothing in return. If they pass the zoning downgrade, I will suffer damages. In fact, all existing property owners will suffer financial damages. What?
Sir, your time has expired. Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the commission this evening? Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Tina McClinton. Mine is for the one for February, for the 16th too. I've been to every single meeting.
Ma'am, do you live in the city?
Pardon me?
Do you live in the city?
Yes, I live
Thank
at 310 Lake Street.
Thank you.
Mine is for the meeting on the, I guess I have to take another day off work to come to the one on the 16th. I agree with him. I live in a CC zone right now, and they want to rezone it. And if they rezone it, it lowers my value of my property. I've been a Kalamazoo resident since 1961 when I was born here. I've lived in that home for 27 years. I've gotten flooded twice. KVCC came, they built the college across the street. I got flooded even worse than I ever got flooded. My fight is the woods next to me helps keep me from my yard flooding and everything else. I just put in a new furnace again. I work 2 jobs to pay bills. I mean, I've been in Kalamazoo all my life, and I know I'll be back at the meeting on the 16th. This really has nothing to do with it because you guys are doing it again. But I wish you guys would just figure out what you're going to do and let us know. We don't know anything about any plans. I've been to every single meeting. I work 65 hours a week, and I still take time off work to come to the meetings. I'm a lunch lady at one job, and I've been a lunch lady for 16 years at the same job, and I work at a store for my second job. My only concern is just if they leave the woods alone and leave us at a CC zone to our property will be actually worth something. I am 56 years old. One day I'll have to move from that property. And I don't want to move unless I'm ready to move. I love the area I live in. I love my neighbors. I have a learning village across the street. I have the police station right down the street. Yeah, there's a lot of issues on Washington, James, Cross Portage, all that. But my area is a nice little area, and it's a quiet little area. In the woods, I have deer, I have foxes, I have everything. I mean, it's really nice to sit in your yard in downtown Kalamazoo, as that's what you call it now. I call it the Edison neighborhood, and watch the deer eat or watch the animals eat. Because when they built the college across the street, they took that woods away. So that's why I think we got flooded even twice as much, because the woods was on a hill. Like I said, I've lived there all my life. I've lived right around the corner from the Bank Street Market. I do all that. I go all those places. I even worked the Bank Street Market for quite a few weeks this summer. So I'm always doing stuff for Kalamazoo. And I just wish they would think about it before they rezone us. Yeah, I don't have the money for an attorney. I'm poor, and I live in a poor neighborhood. So I hope you guys all take that under appreciation. for the people who live there, not just keep building around us. I don't care if you build anywhere else. Just leave my little woods next to me alone. That's all I care about. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the commission? Seeing no one, we are at commissioners' comments. Commissioner Anderson? Commissioner Cooney? Commissioner Urban? Commissioner Cunningham?
Got a few things. First off, Happy New Year, everyone. Although we are in the new year, had a few bumps in the road getting to it. A couple individuals who are city residents passed away, one of which is Mr. Leonard Crenshaw. He was a coach for the Northside Rocket football team. He was a mentor for a lot of our youth, and he passed away at the tender age of 35. And you know, he's a father of a son, and so that's kind of frustrating to see, you know, someone so young pass away. There was another individual who actually, after I got elected onto the city commission, he reached out to me, and we had scheduled to have a meeting in regards to some concerns. He's a 30-year homeowner in the community who resides over on Kingsbrook, but he passed away also. And one of his concerns, city manager, was that there's no sign for parking. And there were several tickets that were given out during that time. Unfortunately, we didn't have further dialogue, but if you can look into that over on Kingsbrook. Also, we spoke to, you know, the snow removal in our community. I just want to speak to all of our citizens. You know, oftentimes we live next door to individuals who are disabled or individuals who are elderly, or we know family or friends who may fall into that category. Take the time to check on them. Take the time to maybe go and shovel a few extra doors or homes that you may not normally do so. And that'll be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up to Director Baker's comments, for a variety of unexpected reasons, I ended up hosting Christmas holiday fun at my place. And I had people coming from the Detroit area and Chicago and north of Grand Rapids. And all of these different family members were beyond impressed with our snow removal that had occurred over the last couple of weeks. So congratulations to you and your team. I understand we've been down and we've been down some equipment, but having family come from all over, they were very, very impressed with how we've handled the weather. So thank you.
We are adjourned.